All right. Hi, class. This video is going to talk a little bit about what the news landscape is like in our country and also uh, be a little bit of a preparation for this discussion post that I'm asking from you for today, which is about the news and about picking stories from the news and analyzing the way they're presented in different sources. I'm going to start by looking at these. You'll see these in the discussion board, so you can look at these more closely. I'm going to zoom in on this one right here. Um, there we go. Oh, doesn't work too well that way. There we go. This is what you can see as a chart here that I didn't make, and I don't necessarily agree with it perfectly, but it's kind of a useful idea. It takes all these different news websites you can see here and categorizes them on a scale from what they call garbage left to garbage right, and high quality and poor quality. And the ideal is that you have high quality, of course, and that maybe isn't you don't want it to be garbage, obviously. Now, this is one person's opinion on this thing, like I said, but um, yeah, so you can see that things are categorized here. And what I'm going to be looking at a couple of different news sources. And so I've picked two that are sort of from the left side here and two that are kind of from the right side here. One I picked is the Huffington Post, which you can see they have placed pretty low, and they have it on the line with garbage left. Now you can agree or disagree with that, but that's where this has placed that. The other source I've picked is the New York Times, which is in high quality and on the leans left side. Another one that I picked is Fox News, which is what they call hyperpartisan right, to confirm your beliefs. That's what they say here. Somewhere they place it between high quality and mixed quality. And then the other one I've picked is much farther down, and again on the line with garbage right, Breitbart. Okay, those are the sources that I want to look at. So let's start with the Huffington Post, or HuffPost. And so this is considered a liberal source. And you can see, we're going to look at the page today. And you can see that I'm making this on June 25th. So this is the week, almost a week before you're looking at this. So you can kind of look at the headlines here. Look at how the page is laid out as well. And you kind of get a sense of some of the things that they focus on. And there's some points of view expressed here. Trump denial, vile. It's expressing a point of view on what Trump said here. There's a section on pride. There's lots of videos and lots of images. There's lots of sort of culture and arts stuff. It's a lot of images. Okay, you can please ignore the phone ringing there. Another website, again, on the left side, is the New York Times, but this is considered a sort of higher quality source. It's a more traditional newspaper also. And one thing that's a little different that I want to point out here, which is really important, is that more traditional news sites like this will have a distinction made between news stories, which are supposed to be relatively neutral, and opinion stories or columns, which are expressing an opinion. And what you'll notice is that HuffPost doesn't make that distinction at all, even though you can see they do express an opinion in some of their work, but they don't make that distinction at all. And so that's something important to notice. And you can see that this projects a slightly more serious quality. If we move to Fox News, again, lots and lots of images. They often have these sort of composite uh, Photoshop images with faces put together. That's Fox News tends to do that a lot. They've got clips from their shows. These are expressing points of view over here, whereas these are a little more neutral. They're in the way they're presented. But you can see there's a sort of unflattering picture of Nancy Pelosi. There's no secret that Fox News doesn't really like her very much. And then we have some other kinds of stories, this bathroom destroyed and Miss Hooters, stuff that was not covered on these other websites, and vice versa. Photo of a Yosemite engagement, so there's some kind of silly stuff on here as well. Now Breitbart is farther to the right, and is, well, you can sort of see it's sort of presenting itself as a mainstream news site, and it's pretty serious looking, except for all this clickbait stuff over on the right here, which is really awful. And there is again some different stories. You can see that they've got certain focus on particular kinds of issues. And I was even struck by, when I looked at the top, I saw this way up here, this thing that says social justice, which surprised me, coming from this right-wing website. And what I sort of noticed is that this social justice section, if you look at some of the headlines here, they're focusing on the ways in which conservative students and people have been sort of penalized or something like that. People thrown out of class for saying there are only two genders, and a lot of their focus is on things like that. So again, that sort of, it says social justice, it maybe illustrates their point of view on that. Okay, so this is really a very right-wing website. It's important to say that. Okay, and as I'm looking here, I wanted to see how they. So if we look back at, if we look back at what you're being asked to do, I want you to pick 3 different sources. Like I'm looking at 4, but that's okay. I'll look at the front pages. We've just done that, and then I want you to find a topic that all the 3 news sources cover. So something that they're all talking about. Something that kind of interested me, that I noticed, was this one right here about Pete Buttigieg, the Democratic presidential candidate, who this week has been facing some criticism for the way he's been handling responding to a police shooting of an African-American citizen in his town that took place. And there's been a lot of conflict and tension where in the town where he is mayor in Indiana. And so this is, okay. So first of all, you can see that the Huffington Post article on this has lots of video and it's really in your face. So there's a lot of video on this page. That's the one thing I noticed right away. Video of the same event from different sources, even. So that's interesting. Okay. We'll do the New York Times in a minute, but let's go over to Fox News and see if we can find that story there too. So different kinds of stories at the top. Nothing here. But as I go way down the page, eventually, there I see it. Juan Williams says Buttigieg is proving to be a small town mayor. Okay. So same topic, presented slightly differently, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I noticed there's some video here too, but the images here, it's really zoomed in on his face. He's looking upset, scared, disappointed, right? That things are not going well for him, and the focus might have been a little different in the HuffPost article. I was surprised to see that this was very prominent on the Breitbart page, right at the top, given how right-wing they are. That struck me as interesting, but maybe we can think about why that might be. And the headline, Representative Marcia Fudge, Pete Buttigieg has a black problem. Again, he's looking upset about that. Okay. I don't know of one black person out of Indiana that supports him. Okay, so again, getting distracted by this weird clickbait on the side, but okay, so I said we would go back to the New York Times. So I looked in the New York Times, and it's interesting. Well, this is on the front page of these three other sources. I went all the way down this page, couldn't find anything on it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I did a little digging, and I started looking in the menus up here. So I thought, okay, so we have politics, and this is part of the election. So maybe it's here. And just keep scrolling down, even within this topic. There's Pete Buttigieg, he's mentioned there. There he's mentioned, and he's mentioned here. Okay, so finally down, really not very prominent. You'd really have to dig for this. We see these articles. Okay, new test. Does he feel their pain? Okay, so again, focusing on him, but does he feel their pain? Who's they? It's the citizens of his town. It's African Americans in America. Okay. Okay, so I don't want to take too much of your time here with this video by going through all the details of every article, but I did want to show you a couple of notes I took on the way, I mean, you can see these articles look different. They have different headlines. They're covering the same topic, but they do cover it in different ways, and it feels different reading them. You kind of, you looking at this, I get one kind of feeling, and looking at this, I get a different kind of feeling. And you might be able to sort of feel that first on a kind of emotional level because of the way it's presented and designed. And I tried to track some of those notes, and I will post this up for you as well so you can look at it more closely, and you can follow these links and look at them as well. And you know, I don't want to sit and read this whole thing for you, but just to say that some of the kinds of things I've noticed are the length of the article, how the different articles are focused. So what I did was group the two more conservative sources and the two more liberal sources, and there's some differences between them, but I thought it was helpful to group them because I noticed some similarities between them too. One thing I noticed about both the conservative sources is that they focused on experts' assessments of Pete Buttigieg's chances in the race. They were really focused saying, you know, this is the end of his campaign. And the more liberal sources didn't do that as much. they said, how much impact it has on his campaign is an open question. The articles on the more liberal side were longer articles too. And the language is a little stronger in the more conservative articles too. And it's interesting maybe to think about what the purpose of these articles on these more conservative websites is. I wondered, the Fox News article made a reference to some kind of scandal with Joe Biden, and I wondered if there was a goal, thinking about the aim of these articles, whether it was to show chaos in the Democratic primary, like things are going poorly for the Democrats. On the other side, there was a little more mention of um, this sort of element of citizens' feelings. How are people feeling about this? This is an issue that affects people. How do they feel? The other side was more focused on Pete Buttigieg and how he feels and how he's doing about this. So I thought that was maybe spoke a little bit to the aim of the other side as well. All right, so I'll let you draw your own conclusions there, but this is just to show you maybe how you can go about looking at different sources and kind of thinking about the way they're presenting their information and what effect that has on what it means. All right, I hope that helps a little bit, and look forward to seeing your work.